It's January 1st. Fresh January 1st. And as you kiss your wife and take a drink of the champagne and hug the few family members that you have with you gathered together, you reflect on what a year it's been. This time last year, you were at a large party with a bunch of people, and nobody knew what a year it would be. It all starts in March with a few people getting sick and making the news. A few people are speculating that this could be a huge deal, but a lot of people aren't really giving it much weight. By April, it's catching on. And as the year progresses, so does the pandemic and the shutdowns and the quarantines and the masks and the lockdowns. By September, another strong wave hits. The fall is terrible. Kids can't trick or treat. Sitting with Santa doesn't happen, at least not in a traditional sense in the winter. And here we are, ringing in the new year under strict guidelines not to gather with just a few people. Is it against the rules? I don't know. They're family. Praying and hoping that this year will be different. I'm Tony Hendricks, and this is Modern Mason, Episode 1. Now, with this being Episode 1, it's only fair that I give a little preface to what the expectations of Modern Mason is. And what I want this podcast to be is a place where we can have a conversation about topics relevant to our lives and how these topics and situations coincide with our Masonic charge and obligations. Now, if you're listening to this and you're not a Mason, all is not lost. Please stick with us and listen, because I feel that doing this podcast also shows people who aren't Masons, potential fellow brothers or could be brothers, what Masonry is about and what our character is about. So with all that being said, with that little spiel and ordeal, let's jump into Episode 1. It seems only proper that episode number 1 is also taking place in January, the first month of 2021. And this is a year that precedes a year unlike any other in my lifetime. With that being said, today's topic, as you could tell by the intro, is about where we are, not just politically, but globally, where we sit right now in the world with everything going on. We have a pandemic. Regardless of how you feel about it, it's here. We have political unrest on both sides, which is also here. On top of that, we have other movements and other things happening in our country and across the world. We are at a very unique place in history. So today, I'm going to sit down with Worshipful Master of the St. John's Lodge number 2 in New Brunswick, Canada, Nathan Davis, and just get some insight on how he's been dealing with this crazy new environment.
So before we actually get into all that, I did want to give a quick disclaimer that the views I give are only my own and are not reflective of my lodge or reflective of the Grand Lodge of New Brunswick, Canada, where I live. When the pandemic hit Canada, and particularly New Brunswick, and I don't know about your lodge, but our lodge went dark for about 6 months. And then we started opening things up again a bit. And then we closed down again in November. Haven't met since October, actually. I realized, of course, that I guess, again, I'm not speaking about your lodge. I know in my lodge there are, how should I say, a number of senior Masons, both in terms of years of service and age, and who might not be on Facebook. Believe it or not everybody's on Facebook. I just learned this. What I did do is I started calling everybody on my list. I literally opened up the Excel spreadsheet of every single member we had, whether they were in province or not, and I called them because I wanted to make sure that they understood that we do have to try even harder now than before to stay in touch with each other and make sure that we're all okay. To the point where I'll go out of my way to talk to the brothers, and especially those who I know are in ill health or otherwise compromised. I make a special effort of making sure that they have means of communication with the rest of the craft and the other brothers in our lodge, and that they receive relief as they need it. And I want to point out two specific things that we've been able to do just in the last month of 2020, because as you pointed out, 2020 was a year that we won't forget anytime soon, although we'd all like to forget it. And I was considering running for an office in Grand Lodge or doing something at the Grand Lodge level. And I was calling a brother just to talk and see, what his thoughts were, because I value his input as a brother and, as someone who is also a younger Mason. And I found out by accident that his wife had just passed away, literally that day, and he'd only been married a month. And I knew his personal circumstances were very challenging. And I thought, this is the time when we take our obligation and we can actually do something with it. And so when that happened, the lodge itself decided to donate $500. The brethren individually contributed about $700 or $800, and then the Grand Lodge Board of Relief cut a check for $1,000 in less than a week. Did I contribute $2,500? No, I didn't. But it was through our collective efforts that we're able to make a significant difference in this brother's life, to the point where he accepted to become a senior officer at our lodge next year, even though he had no intentions of doing it, because he saw how important it was that people continue to work even under the worst of circumstances. So bear in mind, we've been dark since November, so we haven't met in November or December. And I can't speak for where you live, but I know that our soup kitchens around here have been hurting a lot. A huge increase in demand and a parallel decrease in donations. So in my monthly phone call, I called the brethren. I said, listen, this is what I want to do. I'd like to make a really nice donation to a soup kitchen that provides service year round. And, the turkey is always appreciated and all that stuff, but they need other things. And I said, I would like to be able to give them a $500 gift card just in time for the holidays on behalf of the fraternity and on behalf of our lodge especially. And so the brethren really kicked in. They all chipped in, and we were able to get a $500 gift card the week before Christmas for the soup kitchen to a grocery store that's sort of like a Walmart, if you will. They have groceries, but a lot of other stuff. And they asked for that gift card so they could spend the money on what they needed. Today I got a question because I posted something on my private, on my Facebook board late last night. It's not political. It was about something else. But a brother asked me, how do we, as you started out, this whole thing started with you and I, but how do we reconcile ourselves with what's happening, both unfortunately in the United States over the last couple of days and the pandemic overall, and how that's changed Freemasonry? How has it changed Freemasonry? It hasn't changed Freemasonry at all. What it has done for those who are Masons 24/7, it's forced them to look around themselves and look within themselves and figure out who they are. Where do they each land on all of this stuff? So all of this, on a very roundabout way to answer your question, is that the Masons who really look within themselves, regardless of which political stripe you happen to fall into, if they look within themselves and ask, is this the way I would treat a brother? Those are the ones who will give you the answers you're looking for. Because if you ask yourselves that, is that how I would treat a brother? Is that how I would behave at a lodge? If the answer is no, then you've just found your answer.
Thanks, Nathan. That was perfect. And I'm going to go one step further. And I'm going to say that in these dark times that we're experiencing right now, we, as Masons, have a charge and an obligation to be that light. And if you're not a Mason, if you're just a fellow human, hopefully you also feel pushed to be a light. There's a lot of darkness right now, and we all have that choice. We can get caught up in everything, and at times we're all guilty of it, myself included. Trust me, where we get caught up in our own stuff and we don't treat people as people. But I try to set an intention every time I go out, and everywhere I go, to be the best person I can. And I feel right now in the world we're in, that's what we have to do, because there's a lot of stressors. All these niceties that we're used to are gone. And all the human interaction and the closeness that we have taken for granted, now we miss dearly. And I mean dearly. It's a very unique time. And people are freaking out. But let me kind of share this with you, and hopefully it makes sense, and maybe it won't, because in hindsight now I'm trying to see what I was trying to tie. But that intro I did correlates with the 1918 pandemic, the timeline and everything. So we've been through this before. In other words, we've been through hard times in this country. Obviously, in this world, things have happened way worse than this pandemic. And we'll get through this. We just have to be the light. I know that's very vague. I know that's kind of broad, but it's true. You know, they say love is the answer to everything. They weren't fooling. It really is true. And if we can slow down and realize whatever side you're on, you're still a human and you have basic needs and you're a good person. No one's born inertly evil. Maybe we can start seeing past our differences, and then maybe we can grow together once again. And then when all this crazy pandemic stuff is over and we are allowed to be social, it'll mean so much more. I hope to talk to you again. This is episode 1. Definitely wanting to do an episode 2. As far as the frequency goes of the podcast, we're just going to kind of play that by ear right now. But I would like to thank you for listening. I hope you found this insightful. I'm going to work hard and strive hard to make each episode better and bring better information to you. With that being said, my name is Tony Hendricks. This is Modern Mason. Have a blessed day.